and now you must carry the tradition forward. Make it a way of life. Because when you serve, it doesn't just improve your community, it makes you a part of your community. It breaks down walls. It fosters cooperation. And when that happens, when people set aside their differences, even for a moment, to work in common effort toward a common goal. When they struggle together, and sacrifice together, and learn from one another, then all things are possible. After all, I stand here today as president and as an African American. On the 55th anniversary of the day that the Supreme Court handed down the decision in Brown versus Board of Education. Now, Brown was of course the first major step in dismantling the separate but equal doctrine. But it would take a number of years and a nationwide movement to fully realize the dream of civil rights for all of God's children. There were freedom rides and lunch counters and billy clubs. And there was also a Civil Rights Commission appointed by President Eisenhower. It was the 12 resolutions recommended by this commission that would ultimately become law in the There were 6 members of this commission. It included 5 whites and 1 African American, Democrats and Republicans. Two Southern governors, the dean of a Southern law school. A Midwestern University president, and your own father Ted Hesburgh, president of Notre Dame. So they worked for 2 years, and at times President Eisenhower had to intervene personally since no hotel or restaurant in the South would serve the black and white members of the commission together. And finally, when they reached an impasse in Louisiana, Father Ted flew them all to Notre Dame's retreat in Land O'Lakes. Wisconsin, where they eventually overcame their differences and hammered out a final deal. And years later, President Eisenhower asked Father Ted how on earth he was able to broker an agreement between men of such different backgrounds and beliefs. And Father Ted simply said that during their first dinner in Wisconsin they discovered they were all fishermen. And so he quickly readied a boat for a twilight trip out on the lake. They fished, and they talked, and they changed the course of history. I will not pretend that the challenges we face will be easy, or that the answers will come quickly. Or that all our differences and divisions will fade happily away, because life is not that simple. It never has been. But as you leave here today, remember the lessons of Cardinal Bernardin. Of Father Hesburgh, of movements for change both large and small. Remember that each of us, endowed with the dignity possessed by all children of God, has the grace to recognize ourselves in one another. To understand that we all seek the same love of family. The same fulfillment of a life well lived. Remember that in the end, in some way we are all fishermen. If nothing else, that knowledge should give us faith that through our collective labor, and God's providence, and our willingness to shoulder each other's burdens, America will continue on its precious journey towards that more perfect union. Congratulations, class of 2009. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Barack Obama. Nuclear Security Summit Press Conference. Delivered April 1, 2016, Walter E. Washington Convention Center, Washington, D.C. Good evening, everybody. I want to begin by thanking the people of Washington. DC for hosting us, especially for putting up with more than 50 motorcades. And I will make one promise to the people of the city. I will not hold another one of these summits in another 6 years. I want to thank everyone who participated in our meetings more than 50 leaders from every region of the world and key international organizations. As at our previous summits, we didn't just come here to talk, but we came here to act. I know that the very technical nature of nuclear security doesn't always make for flashy headlines. But over the past 6 years, we have made significant meaningful progress in securing the world's nuclear material so that it never falls into the hands of terrorists. And I want to take a few moments to step back and lay out exactly what we have accomplished. Together, we have removed the world's most deadly materials from nuclear facilities around the world. With Japan's announcement today, we've now removed or secured all the highly enriched uranium and plutonium from more than 50 facilities in 30 countries, more than 3.8 tons. which is more than enough to create 150 nuclear weapons. That's material that will never fall into the hands of terrorists. "14 nations and Taiwan, countries as diverse as Argentina and Chile to Libya and Turkey. To Serbia and Vietnam have now rid themselves entirely of highly enriched uranium and plutonium. In particular, I want to point out again that successfully removing all of Ukraine's highly enriched uranium 4 years ago meant that the very difficult situation in Ukraine over. The past 2 years was not made even more dangerous by the presence of these materials. As of today, South America, an entire continent, is completely free of these dangerous materials. When Poland completes its removal this year, Central Europe will be free of them as well. When Indonesia completes its work this year, so will all of Southeast Asia. In other words, as terrorists and criminal gangs and arms merchants look around for deadly ingredients for a nuclear device, vast regions of the world are now off limits. And that is a remarkable achievement. We've made important progress in the United States as well. In addition to the new steps I announced this morning, we've improved nuclear security and training. We've consolidated nuclear materials at fewer facilities. Eliminated some 138 tons of our surplus highly enriched uranium, which would be enough for 5,500 nuclear weapons. Working with Russia, we're on track to eliminate enough Russian highly enriched uranium for about 20,000 nuclear weapons. Which we are converting to electricity here in the United States. More specifically, as a result of these summits, every single one of the more than 50 nations represented here have taken concrete steps to enhance security at their nuclear facilities and storage sites. And that includes improved physical security, stronger regulations, abiding by international guidelines, greater transparency, and that includes international peer reviews. "15 new centers have been created around the world to promote nuclear security technologies and training, to share best practices. And as part of our work today, we agreed to keep strengthening our nuclear facilities' defenses against cyber attacks. We bolstered international efforts to disrupt nuclear smuggling. The Proliferation Security Initiative has grown to more than 100 nations. Including regular exercises to improve our collective ability to interdict shipments. The United States and 36 partner countries have worked to install radiation detection. Equipment at more than 300 international border crossings, airports, and ports. And we are developing new mobile detection systems as well. And finally, as I noted this morning, we've strengthened the treaties and international partnerships that are a foundation for so many of our efforts. So, again, we have made significant progress. And everyone involved in this work, especially our teams, who have worked tirelessly for years, can take enormous pride in our achievements. Nevertheless, as I said earlier, our work is by no means finished. There's still a great deal of nuclear and radioactive material around the world that needs to be secured. Global stocks of plutonium are growing. Nuclear arsenals are expanding in some countries with more small tactical nuclear weapons, which could be at greater risk of theft. And as a consequence, one of the central goals of the summit was how do we build on the work that has been done so that we have an international architecture that can continue the efforts. Even though this is the last formal leaders summit. So even as this is the last of those leader-level summits, today we agreed to maintain a strong architecture. Including through the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and Interpol. To carry on this work and to provide the resources and technical support that is needed to continue this mission. And we are creating a new nuclear security contact group, senior level experts from more than 30 of our countries who will meet regularly to preserve the networks of cooperation we've built. To institutionalize this work, and to keep driving progress for years to come. At our session on ISIL this afternoon, there was widespread agreement that defeating terrorist groups like ISIL requires more information sharing. Everybody understands the urgency in the wake of what's happened in Brussels and Turkey. Pakistan, and so many other countries around the world. As a consequence, our Director of National Intelligence, Jim Clapper, is continuing to engage with intelligence leaders from a number of our European partners on deepening our cooperation. and today, I invited all the nations represented at the summit to join a broader discussion among our intelligence and security services on how we can improve information sharing within and among our nations to prevent all manner of terrorist attacks, especially those that might involve weapons of mass destruction.